Well, thank you very much for coming this morning. I'm Sue Hagan. I'm the chair of the Met Council, and we just have a great group of people here with us today to talk about why the governor's budget that is proposing an additional $250 million per year dedicated to transit for our region, really is a good investment in this community, will help us grow jobs, will help us stimulate the economy. For too long, our transit system has not had the type of funding that we need to grow the system. So this $250 million a year will allow us to grow transit by 1% per year. We can actually keep up with the growth in the region that is projected to be at about 1% per year. It'll allow us to build out these light rail transit ways that we're working on, as well as our BRT corridors. And it really will connect this region as a leader to help people get to work, because you can't apply for a job if you can't get there. So I think the mayors are well positioned to talk about why an investment in transit is good for the future of the region and this economy. And I'm just going to bring them right up and say, first we're going to start with Mayor Chris Coleman. There you go.
Thank you, Chair Haig, and thank you for your leadership on this issue. And I want to thank my fellow elected officials that are here with me. I also acknowledge Russ Stark, who's a member of our City Council that has been a great leader supporting not only the development of the Central Corridor, fully understanding the real potential of that corridor, but also in kind of how we can make sure that this entire region is a first-class region when it comes to transportation. It's not just the transit dependent, it is people that are choosing to get out of their cars, choosing to live in communities that have great networks of transportation options, whether those are light rail lines, bus rapid transit, it might be streetcars in the future. People are choosing to come to communities. Businesses are choosing to come to communities because they have options that include first-class transit systems. I've been around to a lot of different cities that have been investing, quite frankly, investing a lot more than the Twin Cities regions and the state of Minnesota have, and in so many different measures, they are beating us on the things that matter: job creation, growth, in migration of people, talented workers, the kind of people that are choosing to where they want to live first, and then choosing the job that they want to have. That is happening across this country. And if we're going to compete in this region against, quite frankly, warmer climates, as I don't know if it's Commissioner McLaughlin's comment, we don't have oceans, we don't have mountains, but we have to compete in other ways. And having a first-class transportation system, which the governor's proposal would allow, would be very, very significant. I just got back. There was a delegation from St. Paul that went to Salt Lake yesterday. And there were a couple of factors that the folks in Salt Lake identified as they move forward in their transportation system. It's very clear that the infrastructure that they're building out is helping Salt Lake City grow. The entire Wasatch Valley, our mountain range, the front of the range, is developing very quickly. They're attracting top-level talent, top-level companies, and they are moving very, very rapidly in the expansion of their system. But one of the things that was very clear from talking with the mayor, talking with their transportation department, talking with all the folks that have been involved in it, is it requires bold leadership in order to get these things done. The governor in his proposal has provided bold leadership. The Met Council and Chair Haig have provided bold leadership. The commissioner, the mayors, the others that have joined me here have been bold leaders. Let us all be bold leaders on this issue. Let us make sure that we are competing against all the other regions in this country that are making huge steps forward on transportation. And when we do so, the Twin Cities region will be second to none in terms of the quality of life, in terms of the ability to attract talent, and the ability to attract jobs. And ultimately, that's what this is all about. Thank you, Sue.
Great. Mayor, thank you so much. I also want to make sure and acknowledge Council Member Harry Melander, who's the Vice Chair of the Met Council, who's sitting back here. You could come up here too if you wanted, Harry. And very happy to introduce Mayor R.T. Ryback.
Good. Thank you. Well, the bad news is that regions around the country are investing far more in the kinds of transportation infrastructure that grows jobs. So the good news is we have a governor who's put a bold plan on the table that will allow us to make dramatic and incredibly important investments in the transit infrastructure that grows jobs. We have a great plan on the table. That's the first time I've been able to say that in my time as mayor. That's a really important point because we have been desperate for leadership from the state capitol to really catch up. and hopefully pass other communities that have recognized that you can't grow a region if you're stuck in gridlock. You can grow a region if you invest in the transportation, and especially the transit, that moves people throughout the region. Now let's face facts on the way that jobs are grown here. And when you look at all these mayors from these different places, you recognize that we are all in this together. There is really a very rare circumstance where somebody lives and works in the same city in this region. Primarily what we have is people moving from one city to another from their work to their job. And that requires a transportation infrastructure that does far more than we're doing right now. I'm incredibly excited about the Southwest Corridor being built because it's going to be important to get all those people from the western suburbs who work downtown into Minneapolis. But I want Minneapolis residents to have access to a job at United Healthcare and the other growing employers in the western suburbs. We move both ways. The Central Corridor is going to show us that same piece. But it's not right for us to only invest in one piece of infrastructure every decade or so. Transportation is a system. You have to do it together like a system. You don't say in your body, I'll do the liver one year and the heart the next. It's an organism that works together. That's exactly what transportation is. And we can only do this right if we make several investments at once. We need to continue to build these light rail corridors forward, but we need to also make sure we invest in the bus rapid transit on 35, on Central, out to to 94 to the west, up into the northern suburbs along the 35W bridge and all the way to Forest Lake. As you look at the system that we need to build, we simply cannot do that unless we make a new investment. Now, the reality is the governor's plan has put on the table an investment that grows out of the sales tax that is still very modest in comparison to other communities. I believe the governor's proposal is 1/4 what San Francisco and Seattle are making. Am I correct on that? And yet it is a dramatic improvement over what we've been doing. So I want to thank the governor for bold action. This is absolutely critically important. And it says a lot about our future, but it says a lot about people like Val Escher over here, who's a resident of Minneapolis. She lives at 45th and Lindale, right? About a block from where I used to live. My wife and I were able to get by there with one car because we could hop on the bus and take an express downtown. That bus has now been moved, and so you can't do that right now, can you? And that's one small example that is a huge piece of your life. And when you think about the lives of the people in this region, it's critically important. A final point. Mayor Coleman is right. We spend some time going to these other communities and looking at how they're investing. And I want to take an example of two cities we've been to. In Austin, a city that has taken some business from here and is certainly growing, I'm not worried about competition from Austin because Austin can't get its act together to build any transit, and they are gridlocked. We will outcompete Austin because we have better transportation. But then I go to Denver, where the fast track strategy they've had going for almost a decade now has built lines throughout the region, and they continue to outbuild us. Denver is far more competitive for new jobs on the metric of transportation because they have invested. We will lose jobs to the Denvers, and we will beat the Austins of the world because of what we have and have not invested in transit. I don't want to lose a job to anybody. And that's not just about us and pride. That's about the livelihood of people here. And the most important thing we can do right now is to pass the governor's plan and implement the vision that we've had for a long time. And I think a lot of folks up here have been part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Well, the investment in transit, and as you can see from our map over here, the map on my far left can show you what this $250 million a year investment in transit can build out. It would build out almost 20 new arterial BRT and BRT lines. It would certainly complete our blue line north, the Bottineau corridor, to the east, the Gateway corridor, streetcars, arterial BRT, the extension of the Southwest corridor. So there's something for everyone in this region, including BRT potentially in 169 and 212. This is a regional system. As the mayor said, we live and we work all over this region. We're constantly going back and forth, and that's a beautiful and a wonderful thing, and we want to make it easier for people to do that. We have several mayors with us today, and I want to make sure that we introduce all of them, and a couple of them are going to speak. Mayor Janet Williams from Savage, Mayor Brad Brad Tapke from Shakopee, Mayor Jim Hovland from Edina, Mayor John from West St. Paul, and Mayor Mike McGuire from Egan. So you can see that this is an effort that really involves all of us in this region, all the communities here, and I really want to introduce Edina Mayor Jim Hovland to say a few words.
Thank you, Sue. To me, one of the most important things that government can do is set the plate for success, for living, for transportation, for economic development. The way we can do that is to expand our road, bridges, and transit system. We've done a lot of emphatic work on roads and bridges. It's time for transit now to have a occupying role in this region. When you look at the U.S. economy, 75% of our GDP is produced in the 100 top metropolitan regions. We're one of those regions. We need to have the kind of transit system available that allows us to move people and goods, especially people, in the most effective and efficient way possible so that goods can move more freely on our roadway system. We know from the organization of Greater MSP, which is our new regional economic development entity, that the site selectors that are coming in here to look at the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, beyond the quality of workers that we have, which are tremendous, they're asking, well, what's your transit system like? We can't give them a very good answer right now, but with this quarter-cent sales tax increase, whatever it attaches to will be a great thing in terms of being able to expand our transit system to be more competitive, not only nationally, but globally. So I think all of these mayors and county commissioners and state legislators that you're seeing that are supporting this, we should all be behind this. Personally, I don't think it's enough. I think we could go to a penny, but let's get what we can, let's do what we can do to make our system as efficient and effective as it can be, and to make our region really hum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I want to bring up Mayor John Zandmiller from West St. Paul. Come on, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. When I was a small kid, my dad said, "Come on, Johnny, I want to show you something." And we walked across the farm over to the railroad tracks. He says, "That's the last time you'll ever see that." It was the Milwaukee Road train that went through Rosemount, picked up and dropped off, and then went on to St. Paul and Minneapolis. Well, if my dad, bless his soul, was still around here today, I think he'd be proud of the fact that we're rethinking transit. And not just for an ease of consumer, but for the overall vitality of our business and our quality of life. Now, I can give you two perfect examples about why this is important, and I'm so thankful to the governor for taking the bold move in proposing this, and I hope that the legislature embraces and adopts it. I've got a colleague, an administrative professional that lives in my city. If she were to drive, she'd have to dedicate 15 hours of her monthly salary just to pay for parking. Transit's important. It has to be there. It has to be a part of what we do in order that we can fill jobs and get people to work. Now, here's another perfect example. A few years ago, we opened a store in West St. Paul. 2 years before that, the identical store, not the identical store, but another store under the same name opened in Inver Grove Heights. When our store opened, I talked to the employees, and I said, "What made you apply here? What made you want to work in West St. Paul?" One woman that I talked to said it's very simple. The bus comes here, and it doesn't go to the other store. She said, "I was spending too much money driving to work every day." Now, this particular store doesn't pay an astronomical wage, so it's an important thing. To keep people working is a very important thing. In my full-time job, I work in an area with an inordinate number of people that are unemployed, and I'm able to get to where these new jobs are coming up. You know, they're popping up in cornfields. It's not just the industrial centers anymore, and it's important that we have effective transportation that moves people in both directions to where the work is, to keep our productivity up. And I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to grab hands and shake with people like my colleagues here today that support the broad regional perspective and the choices necessary to make it a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to invite up Shakopee Mayor Brad Tapke. Mayor.
Thank you, Sue. Good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Tapke. I'm the mayor of Shakopee, and it isn't too often do we hear Scott County and Shakopee being talked about as transit-oriented communities, but we have a great express bus route that goes from Shakopee and Prior Lake up to the city of Minneapolis that has been extremely successful. Shakopee and Scott County have been large job creators in the region, and we are stepping up. Our city council has passed a letter of support for the governor's quarter-cent sales tax dedicated to transit. We are stepping up as a city who believes in transit and working forward to continue to be job creators, because there's no way that we will, as a city and as a region, continue to create the jobs we are currently without having a comprehensive regional transit system that we can rely on to get people back and forth. Our situation is unique in the metro that we have a physical barrier of a river, and there are only so many lanes that we can get across the river, and we need to have transit options for our residents, for our commuters, so that we can continue to invest in bridges and roads and those kinds of things, but have options for people and have options for folks to be able to travel across the metro and be able to hit from Shakopee, American Boulevard, and Bren Road, and the Southwest LRT, and have options for people to be able to drive and leave those, people to be able to take the transit and leave those lanes open for business and commerce to take place. And so we are proud and excited as a city to step up as a community embracing transit and working toward a regional transit solution. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. You know, transit is important for everyone in this region. It's important for shippers. It's important for people who don't choose to use transit. Today, about 1/3 of the people going to and from work during peak hours are actually on trains or buses. So if our region is going to grow by 900,000 people, we need to provide additional capacity for people to get on those trains and buses going forward into the future. And if you think about this visual, one bus carries 69 people. If that bus is gone, those 69 people are going to get in their cars and they're going to fill those lane miles, and we're going to have more and more congestion in this region. So I want to introduce Hennepin County Commissioner Peter McLaughlin.
Well, thank you, Sue. I come here today as Hennepin County Commissioner and Chair of the county's Transit Improvement Board, which endorsed the governor's quarter-cent sales tax at our meeting last week. It was 5 years ago this week that the legislature overrode Governor Palente's veto and created our new transportation system here. 5 years ago this week. The net result of that is we not only have Central Corridor 89% constructed, and Met Council's doing a heck of a job getting that done, 89% constructed, but the Cedar Avenue busway is going to be opening up this year. We've made investments in Anoka County. Washington County has participated with express buses and working on transit stations, and we have plans for a number of other lines, and you can see those on the map. Our governor, Governor Dayton, has now created a new opportunity. He's provided leadership to say we need to make the next generation of investment in transit. He views it, rightly so, as an essential part of the public infrastructure, the public support for our economy. We haven't had a governor do that in a long, long time. But he has set that course, and that's what this quarter-cent sales tax is about. So now as we get ready to move forward, we're going to be able to look, not only those lines on the map are great, but think of it this way. Think of it this way. It's about Eden Prairie, Shakopee, connections to Eden Prairie, Shakopee, the Mall of America, the airport, downtown St. Paul, the University of Minnesota, reaching into Washington County, north into Anoka County, and then all the way up in northwestern Hennepin County. All those places connected by high-quality transit. And what this sales tax proposal does is allows us to go forward with these lines, not just one at a time, but on multiple lines at the same time. We don't have to wait 30 years or 20 years to get this done. We can move forward and get these things done in a dozen years. And we can do that because we'll have the capital that we need to invest. We'll have the capital that we need to compete for federal funds, and we'll have the operating money that we need not only to operate these new lines, but to stabilize the existing bus system, to make sure that you have a bus coming near to your house. That's been we've been dealing with scarcity in this region for transit for a long, long time. This is going to put our transit system on a footing that's going to allow it to contribute to our economic prosperity in the future. It's that fundamental. It's that fundamental. And that's why we're enthusiastically supporting this and why we need to go forward. And you can see the mayors from across this region, the Met Council representing the entire region. You know, people come up to me as a Minneapolis guy and they say, you know, Minneapolis, your biggest competition is St. Paul, right? And I say, right. Sao Paulo, Brazil. The region of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Because that's really what we're talking about here. Worldwide competition. Worldwide competition. And this region is a big player. We've been a big player because in the past we invested in infrastructure. This is the 21st century contribution to an infrastructure to keep us economically competitive. That's why I'm enthusiastic about it. That's why the county's Transit Improvement Board is enthusiastic about it, and we're going to march forward and we're going to get this done, led by Governor Dayton, and we're going to have a transit system that will make us the envy of the nation and a competitor in the world economy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, thank you very much. And I just want to conclude by saying that this proposal by the governor is really part of his overall budget proposal, which is to be fair, to be transparent, to end gimmicks and one-time fixes, and to really help this state and this region and this economy grow, create more opportunity for people, and transit is so important to help achieve those goals. So we take questions if anyone has questions.
Will this tax be mandatory on the counties, or will the county boards need to approve it like they did the first quarter cent?
The governor has asked us to work with legislators in counties to make sure that, in fact, the tax does get imposed, that it's not an opt-in system, and we're still working with legislators to determine the particular way in which that occurs.
And this would, the money it would generate would pay the $118 million that currently is the state's responsibility, and the state paid 10% of Central Corridor with bonding money.
Right.
They're expected to pay 10% of Southwest in bonding money. Why let them off the hook?
Well, they are still on the hook. This revenue stream would, in fact, pay for capital share for bonding going forward for these transitways in the future. And this revenue is generated from people from all over the state of Minnesota. If you think about the big sales tax revenue generators here in this region, the State Fair, the Mall of America, entertainment venues and leisure venues in Minneapolis and St. Paul. People are coming from all over the region to pay that sales tax revenue.
I guess what I'm wondering, though, is are you anticipating that you're not going to get the $118 million in bonding money for Southwest?
The governor hasn't decided yet whether or not there will be a bonding bill this session, and there will be legislators introducing bonding legislation to support investment to get the state's $118 million share over the next 2 years in the event this does not pass.
Is it going to be difficult to get legislators on board from maybe a couple of the counties that have been reluctant in the past to sign on to such taxes?
You know, so far we've testified in front of 2 committees, and we've had really a positive response from the questions that have been asked by legislators, and it's a long session. There's going to be a lot of discussion going forward, and we'll see how it goes. I think this is a proposal that has something for everyone in it. When you look at this map and you see where these investments are going, every community in this region can benefit from this investment.
I actually think
Go ahead.
these legislators get a visit from some of their mayors. I think it's going to be a different conversation because the mayors have been clear about articulating why this is important for the economic health of their communities, why transit connectivity is important. And so I think that's a different conversation than we've had around this place here for a while. And the governor has helped set that up, but the leadership we're getting from these local communities is going to make it a different conversation with their elected officials here in St. Paul.
Terry, did you say it's possible to impose this on the counties without their consent somehow? How does that work?
The legislature can either agree to impose this themselves, they can ask the Met Council to impose it, or they could ask the CTIB to impose it. So those are really the three issues that are being looked at.
How much of the money would go to the Met Council and how much would go to the CTIB?
The money will go for transit and capital operating, and we don't know what that governance structure yet is going to be, but I would assume that counties and the Met Council will be working together to make those decisions going forward.
We'll figure it out. I mean, we'll figure it out. Municipalities are involved currently with the GEARS committee, and I think, frankly, with the additional funds, there's going to be more work for GEARS to do in terms of identifying priorities and working with the counties and with the Met Council. So I think that's a high-quality problem to have to figure out, and we'll do it.
And the $250 million that you anticipate it generates, that would be the transit tax, a $0.25 on top of the governor's other sales tax proposals?
The governor's sales tax proposal is to reduce the overall sales tax to a level of 5.5%. In the region, this would increase that by an additional $0.25. So that is how that works. It's on, the $250 million is generated from the broadened sales tax base in the governor's proposal.
If the governor's broadened sales tax proposal didn't go forward, but the $0.25 transit tax did go forward, how much would that generate separately?
You know, we can't really answer that today. What we have been saying is that the problem we're trying to solve too is to raise $250 million a year, whether that's a $0.25, a $0.30. It really depends on what's in that base of that sales tax going forward. Any other questions? If not, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.